So the biggest life lesson that I've learned up until the age of 29, or really between the ages of like 18 and 29, I think, is that in life there is no rush to do anything at all. You don't need to, um, I think, particularly when we're at school, particularly if we've received a certain sort of education, we're taught that you must study hard, hard, hard now, and you must get into the best university, and you must study hard there, and then you must go out into the world of work, and then you must work hard, and then you must get the promotion, and keep going and keep going and keep going. Like you don't have to do that at all. No, you don't. You don't to be a great person in the world, to be a successful person in the world. You do not need to spend your entire life working as hard as you can. You don't need to do that. The amount of time between the ages, the typical sort of university graduating age of 22 and 29, say 7 years, is huge. It's a huge amount of time. Like, what can you do in 7 years? Like, you can start a degree, do a master's, and get a PhD in that time. If you want, if you want to like really quantify it in terms of degree achievements that you can get at that age. Um, do you need to go to university in your 20s? No, not at all. You don't. You don't. You don't at all. You can do whatever you like in your 20s. Frankly, you can do whatever you like at any age. That's another part of it, I think. But yeah, like in your 20s, like, do you need to go to university? No, not at all. I looked a little bit into the life or the backstory of Sam Harris, the great and venerated public intellectual. Now, like he went to Stanford to study English at 19. He dropped out and went travelling, I think mostly to India and things, to sort of get interested in Eastern religion during his entire 20s. And he didn't return to education until he was 30, and he started an undergraduate degree at 30. So, like, can you do that? It's like, yeah, of course you can. You don't need to be, in full time education at any point. You can do it when you're 40, even if you like. There's no rush to do anything in particular. There isn't. And I think like the more you can get through life realizing that you don't have to rush, and that you don't have to, you don't have to, yes, you do have to delay gratification, I think, on certain levels if you want to achieve a big project. Say if you want to write a book or start a business or do all these sorts of things, yeah, you'll end up having to delay gratification, and you'll end up having to work hard at intervals in order to achieve that. And I write books. I don't enjoy writing books at all. I don't like writing. I find writing tough and tedious, and every time you think like the last typo is out of a book on the fifth edit of it or whatever, and you take the plunge finally and get your fucking book printed, and it shows up, and you at page 11, and there's a fucking typo in there. If you're just like, really, it's spell checker's fault as well. It is also. It can come up as like, yeah, there's no rush to do anything in life in your 20s. None at all. Like, don't. You shouldn't think of the world as like this arena in which success or failure is kind of handed down to people. I don't think that's a good way of thinking about it. I think more like the way you should think about it is like it's a sort of playground, if you know what I mean. You've got a really big playground where you might be a person who plays guitar in the corner of the playground, If you're playing the guitar well and you look like you're enjoying it and you enjoy playing guitar, you will get people flocking around you. Oh, that sounds nice. Like this guy can play the guitar really well, and it's lovely. And people will gather around you and like your guitar playing, for instance. And that's how a sort of success happens. Or you're the kids sort of playing your own like weird little game in the corner. Like maybe a few people come up to you and ask you what you're doing. You're like, oh, I'm playing this weird game. And they're like, well, we'll leave you to it because we're not interested in that. But or like you could be the person who. I was reading about the life of John Donne recently, the poet, the 16th century English poet John Donne. That in the introduction, he wasn't a popular poet while he was alive. He was held in high regard by Ben Jonson and I think a couple of other English poets at that time. Ben Jonson went on to have a far more prestigious career or recognised. Donne wasn't really criticised by Alexander Pope in the 18th century, or Samuel Johnson in the 18th century. He didn't really gain any popularity in England until the 19th century. And even then, people were kind of ooh about him. And he didn't really achieve the sort of real lasting penetration, or people didn't really start taking his style of poetry so seriously until the late 20th century. So, he didn't achieve any palpable recognition until about 500 years after his death. And that, was it 400 years after his death? So this is so how it happens, or it can absolutely happen like this. You can be an absolute nobody during your lifetime, and Donne wasn't exactly a nobody. He was he had I think he ended up in his mid-40s, in a reasonably well-paid job. I think he was some sort of I think he was Lord Chamberlain's steward or some sort of I don't know. I can't remember what I read at this timeline bit. What is it? Rector of Blenheim, Bedfordshire, Justice of the Peace. Yeah, okay, so he was a Justice of the Peace eventually. And he was okay. But he had financial trouble all throughout his life as well. And, but you could be doing something like that. You could be writing poetry that no one gets, no one understands until many, many years after you're dead. And the point isn't to, I don't think, say, fixate upon something in your life. I am this. I must do this. No, you can be lots of things. You can leave a very diverse legacy, if you like. I think. I'm just thinking of other people Da Vinci wrote lots of philosophy that no one really understands or gets, and or no one really reads. It's not really considered part of the philosophical canon, but who knows? I've never read any. It might be incredibly deep, really on the ball shit. Who knows? It is after all Da Vinci, but yes, success it needn't happen while you're alive, and it needn't be pursued. I don't think really when it comes to finding out the intellectual and creative jewels that are in your heart. I think concentrate on polishing the jewels themselves and worry less about whether or not people think they are jewels for real or what the price tag on those jewels is, and just kind of focus on, getting the minutiae of the perfection of the project down, really. And that's probably all you can do as an artist, I think, of any sort, or writer or artist. And just concentrate on the thing itself and making that beautiful and making that satisfactory to yourself. Which in itself is very hard, and particularly with poetry, because you struggle on things like, do I change this word for this word because it sounds better, or like, I wrote a poem recently. It's a weird little poem. It says, the screaming girl came up to me. She said a crazy man has just cut his cock off in the town square. And that's the whole poem. And I don't know whether or not I want to change the word cock for penis. I deliberated over that for a few days. And in poetry, you do deliberate over these sorts of things. Like, should I put this comma in or should I take it out? And you can spend like an afternoon or a day thinking about that sort of stuff if you want to. But yeah, I mean, creative success, it's such a fickle and a diaphanous, no, maybe not diaphanous, ephemeral. Yeah, it's an ephemeral thing. It can strike with incredible speed, or, you know, like many great artists, you can go throughout your entire career in obscurity, and everyone thinks you're basically a loser and a weirdo loner type who's just an odd poet or a weird painter like Van Gogh, you know, and just wandering around the south of France, not really talking to anyone, just obsessively painting. And everyone's like, he's a weird, he's an oddball, you know. And his painting's like, not brilliant. We don't want to say anything, but we don't like him so much. He's like, I don't know, weird paintings. See, and you don't know, like it's just for the future. It is. So in a sense, like, there's no rush at all. There's no rush when you're painting a Van Gogh painting. There's no rush when you're composing poetry like John Donne. None at all. You know, you can take 10 years to, well, taking 10 years to think about where to put a comma is probably a bit stupid. It's a bit overkill. Like, that might be a mark of laziness. But, you know, no rush at all. Just, you know, to finish a body of work, say. But, I mean, you know, there's no real need to motivate yourself at all. If you are genuinely passionate about it, you just find yourself doing it. You just find yourself needing to do it. You know, like, I ended up, like, writing poetry every day now. Or, like, 1 or 2 poems every day. I don't know how, I don't know how I do it, because, like, I need to do it. It's like an obsessive need to do something. And it is just for enjoyment, and it was also to keep my hand in with writing, and also to keep that level of practice up. So it is one of 2 things, you know. But yeah, like, no rush in life, no rush for success. In creative business and so on pursuits, there's no guarantee of success anyway. Talent doesn't even guarantee success. No, sorry, it doesn't. Or maybe it does eventually, but possibly, very possibly not within your lifetime as well. That's the other bit. And that's sort of an excruciating fact to sort of have to try and make yourself comfortable with. But yeah, persistence, yes. Enthusiasm, passion, and interest, yes. Rushing, pushing yourself endlessly towards some goal, some haven, some safe space, wrong. We get that from our education at school, and it's a false paradigm. Don't fall into that trap. But yes, don't rush, and yes to everything you want to do in life, ideally.